All right, folks, welcome to the PNJ newsroom and a bright and not so bright and early 12:45 a.m. on Saturday morning.
Yawn.
We're coming to you bright and early. I'm sure wherever you are. We got our 8 games in the area for Week 6, and I was at our game of the week. We had Pace, Escambia, and what a show they put on. I mean, they 42-0 Pace. They look about as good as anybody in the state right now. They took a 28-0 halftime lead after turning the ball over on downs on that first possession. They scored on their next 4, ran for 200 yards. Devin Varney was 8 of 8 passing for 147 yards. Pretty much everything was going right for them, and it looks like we're starting to see a sort of a trend with them.
Oh yeah, they've really turned it on. They're really starting to play pace football. I know I say that all the time, but I mean they really are. They're starting to pound the ball. They're getting contributions from other running backs other than Carrion now. You saw that a lot tonight. Mm-hmm. And the thing about pace is they're only going to get stronger because they're only going to get more confident.
Right, absolutely. And they go to Tallahassee Rickards next week. After that, sets up a great matchup because we're going to have Pace at home, 2-0 in the district, versus Pine Forest at home, who now just moved to 2-0 in the district at the game you were at, which was Tate losing to Pine Forest 29-8.
Yeah, and Pine Forest looked great. They've minimized their turnovers tonight. They had a couple of fumble snaps. They lost one of them, but other than that, they looked great. And it was totally the Purifoy show tonight. You had 2 Purifoys. Luchez gets a block punt, who was blocked by Michael Moore, takes it 18 yards in for a touchdown, has a 1-yard touchdown run, and then his cousin Shaquille has 2 touchdown catches, one from 26, one from 45. If he starts playing like Luchez, they may be impossible to stop, especially if they run throw the ball with any regularity.
Right, and also in the Pace game, Patrick Maddox, 6 catches, over 100 yards, had a touchdown. Obviously, that broke that open. So really, it's interesting because both Pine Forest and Pace are such run-heavy teams, and we saw sort of just a surprising contribution from the passing game on both sides.
Right, and that's what's going to make that matchup so interesting is how do you prepare now? Because you can't overlook that passing game because as soon as you do, they're going to go light you up through the air. They've both shown that they can do it. But you can't ignore that running game because both of them are stout. They both have so many guys that can just rip off yards.
Right, exactly. You got to think, obviously, the focus will be on the running game, and it's almost like icing on the cake, whatever you can get from the pass game, and both teams are able to do it. October 22nd, Pine Forest at Pace. Basically going to be, it looks like, for the district title. Next week, both are playing on the road, out of town, actually. Pine Forest at Baton Rouge Catholic. We've got Pace at Tallahassee Rickards. So no district games. Nothing will change. Then on October 22nd, both will be 2-0. So 2 pretty impressive wins from the 2 teams you sort of expect those type of wins from.
Right.
Again, sets up a mega matchup that I definitely won't be missing. So
well, we might have to thumb wrestle to see who goes out.
Right, yeah. Or maybe, hey, it might be both of us, considering, we've double-staffed big games before, and we've double-staffed PHS Pine Forest at the beginning of the year, and so I wouldn't put it past our bosses to allow that.
Put in a phone call. Put in a good word. Get us both out there.
That's right. All right, so after those 2, the other 1-4A matchup, we had Navarre. Really, probably the most surprising outcome of the night. Not for me because, of course, I picked Navarre, but Navarre 49, Milton 20, and frankly, it wasn't even that close. It was 49-6 at one point with a running clock in the 4th quarter on Milton. Milton tacked on a couple of touchdowns in garbage time, but 49-20, 2 impressive games in a row, really, from Navarre.
Yeah, you had to know they were going to come out fighting with it being Ian Lockwood, who's re-diagnosed with brain cancer. His last game of his high school career will be going to Gainesville for treatment. And you had to know that was going to be something that really got those guys fired up and got them out on him on the just pure raw emotion. Then Lockwood goes out and scores 2 touchdowns. Maybe that carries emotion farther. You only play so far on emotion, but when you keep getting those extra reinforcements through the game, man, they really went out and just put it on them the same way they put it on Crestview last week. And who knows what you're going to get out of them for the rest of the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And, hey, now you look at Navarre is 1-1 in the district. They've lost to Pine Forest on the road, which you sort of had to expect. But really, you look at now, Navarre is going to have to go to Pace. That could end up being a pretty big game in terms of playoff.
Right.
You've got Navarre's looking like a legitimate threat on that number 3 spot, sort of like Tate was last year. Tate was 7-3.
Right.
They finished 3rd behind Pace and Pine Forest. But Navarre's looking like that team that, hey, maybe they can give one of the, maybe give Pace, maybe give Escambia, and beat them or give them a run for their money.
Right. If Pace loses to Pine Forest and Navarre wins against Escambia, that sets up a big district game between the 2 of them.
Essentially a playoff.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, gutsy performance by Lockwood, gutsy performance by Navarre, and 240 plus point nights in a row for Navarre. So look out. They outside of pace, they might be the second hottest team right now. So also we had two teams get their first win tonight. Gulf Breeze 38-20 over Rutherford in District 1 3A. Also in District 1 3A, we had Washington slide by Bay 13-7. So two teams winless coming in. Who'd have thought? You have both of them win on the same night, and sets up next week Washington Gulf Breeze. Somebody's gonna have a 2-game winning streak. Who'd have thought it?
I just want to point out I picked Washington.
Right.
So there you go. That's the offset for you picking Navarre.
Right.
But yeah, you had to think Washington was due. They're so close so many times this year. Finally got the monkey off their back, get that win. And hey, Gulf Breeze played defense, and we've said all year when they play some defense, they can win some games. They've been putting points on the board. That hasn't been the problem. The problem has been stopping people, and they finally did that.
Yeah, and scoring, for certain is not the issue. Michael Mann at quarterback, he's approaching 1,000 yards in the season already. He's completing something like 65% of his passes. So scoring has not been the issue. It's stopping people. And hey, if Gulf Breeze can stop people or hold them to 20 points in games, they have a chance to win pretty much any game they're in.
Absolutely.
As for Washington, I'm not going to lie. You talk about a team that's snake bitten. When I saw that score come in, it was 13-0. Then I saw 13-7. I'm like, please tell me they're not going to lose this game 14-13. It's like, they've already lost a game on the last second field goal. They've lost a game in overtime.
Missed a field goal.
Right. Oh yeah. I mean, they've found way. It's almost like they've found ways to lose games.
Right.
Such a young team, but it was a young player, Dejan Funderburk, their sophomore quarterback, that scored both touchdowns in that win. Big win for Washington. First win for Michael Smith. And hey, somebody's going to leave next week with some momentum. I mean, it's crazy to think when you were talking about two winless teams, 5 hours ago. But now you're looking at somebody's going to have a little momentum as they go on.
Absolutely. We were talking earlier in the year that this game next week was going to be a game where somebody was going to get their win. Now both of them have already got their win. Somebody's going to be looking good.
Win 2 in a row. That's right.
Absolutely.
So. Also, District 1 2B Catholic, sort of coming off some bad news on Friday afternoon. It looks like it's a possibility that they'll have to forfeit their first 4 games of the season due to having an eligible player. Our understanding is that wasn't a starter. It wasn't even really a contributor. It was just a reserve that they had on their team. Didn't have a 2.0 grade point average, and they basically just mishandled. Cybert admitted to just mishandling some paperwork. They thought he was squared away and good to go on this academic performance plan that the FHSA allows. The paperwork wasn't done, and he self-reported the violation on Friday afternoon. So they could lose 4 games. Bad news, but they were able to rally there, able to respond. They go without their quarterback, Sean White, go to Mariana and win 35-19.
Yeah, they're just loaded over there. You're hard-pressed to think maybe they'll lose a district game this year. And, a credit to Cybert is he gets those guys up. If I'm on that team, I'm already starting to look forward to when we're going to play bowls, and they haven't done that, and that's impressive.
Yeah, and one note with those forfeitures too, that it will have zero effect in terms of playoffs because they haven't played a district game yet with the ineligible player. Those are all window dressing games. As much as we like the Catholic and Tate games and the the Pace and the PHS and Pine Forest games, in the grand scheme of life, they don't mean anything. So it's actually sort of good that they caught it here the day before they played a district game where they could have had to forfeit that. So they're 1-0 in the district still, and really the matchup with Walton will sort of answer all our questions. Walton is clearly the other good team in that District 1 2B, so we'll see how that goes. Northview is just rolling right now. 35-14 winner over Holmes County. 4-0 in the district, 5-0 on the year, and they have a huge game next week at Freeport, who is 3-1 in the district, or 3-0 in the district. I'm sorry, and 4-1 overall. I believe that's right. I think
their losses to Milton.
Right. They have one loss to Milton, but they're both undefeated in the district. Northview's going to have to go to Freeport, but I mean, talk about somebody that keeps putting up points, and they're doing it on the ground as opposed to Gulf Breeze through the air.
Right. If they can go out and pull out this win, you can go ahead and lock them in for the playoffs. That is a huge game next week. You've got guys like Dustin Uhas that's really carrying the ball. You've got guys like Lonnie Gardner that are really locking it down on the line. Those guys, they're going out every week. They're keeping it up. They're finding a way to win, and they've been very impressive this year.
Yeah, final game, Jay struggling a little more this year. I mean, they're talking about a team looking to get that first win. They lose 55-13 against a solid Vernon team, another team competing in the top of that district. So that's our 8 games, and I'm D.C. Reeves, sports writer at the News Journal. We got Jason Blakeney, assistant sports editor at the Pensacola News Journal, with you as always. And be sure to check out as we always have. Friday mornings we'll have our preview video for Week 7 next week, and as you're watching now, every Saturday morning we'll have our wrap-up video along with our Check My Stats Players of the Week. So be sure to check those out, and we'll see you soon.